For a long time, many economists refused to accept the very notion of there being limits to growth or limits to resources. And that's something that we have now realized is becoming very, very real. And so I think biomimicry does offer some very interesting and inspiring solutions, because we can see in natural systems the way that all the resources are kept in closed-loop cycles. And that's radically different to the way that humans have done things to date. We have tended to use resources in a very linear, wasteful and polluting way. And we have to shift that, because many of those resources are very limited and are at least going to peak, and in some cases may even be exhausted within the next half century. Yes, I think there's going to be much more collaboration between scientists and architects. Somehow, in the past, architects have tended to gravitate a bit more towards the artistic end of the spectrum. They seem much more interested and comfortable in that sort of milieu. But I think there's a huge amount that can be gained from working with scientists. And Jenny Benyus actually makes the point quite well when she says that traditionally ecologists are brought into construction projects to do the body count once the design has been done. And there's just a much more constructive relationship that is possible by bringing ecologists and other scientists and biologists into the design process right at the beginning. Yes, I think you're right. Biomimicry can be a way to bring creativity back more sort of forcefully into sustainable design. I think the other thing that's really significant is that it brings a very different language. You know, often sustainability discussions use very negative terms, you know, like cutting, reducing, eliminating, whereas somehow when you're starting to talk about biomimicry, it's a much more positive set of words. You're talking about optimization and restorative design and abundance and things like that. And in that sense, I think it has much more potential to influence people and to bring about the kind of changes that we need, but without the sort of painful negative language that is often used. Well, increasingly there are some really good examples of industry leaders who are doing really inspiring things, and one of the best ones for me is Ray Anderson at Interface, who calls it doing well by doing good. And he's worked very closely with people who are interested in biomimicry. He's worked with McDonough and Braungart, designing cradle-to-cradle products, and with Amory Lovins. And through that kind of collaboration, he's actually transformed his business from what used to be really quite a boring, in a way, but commercially successful carpet company into a really progressive one that is leading the whole industry and has really transformed attitudes in other parts of the kind of industrial sector. Well, I mean, the previous climate change discussions and Kyoto discussions have always ended up being vastly watered down. You know, often politicians have put a brave face on it and tried to put a positive spin on what they've achieved, but really they've been very undemanding in the targets that have been set, way too open-ended. So I think that the challenge really now with the negotiations in Copenhagen is to set a proper and really binding set of targets that will help drive this whole sustainability revolution. And it is a revolution, so it doesn't have to be about cutting everything. It's actually just about doing things in new ways and really transforming the way that we've done things in the past.
Changing the bad habits from the Industrial Revolution.
Yes, and it is about changing the habits of the Industrial Revolution, but I think it's also about reawakening our ingenuity. I have a feeling that the carbon age has been a massive distraction from ingenuity. It's just been so easy to burn fossil fuels to meet all our needs that we've actually forgotten how to be ingenious as a species. And so I think it's an incredibly exciting time to be a designer, and we're going to see a massive reawakening of the kind of ingenuity that we have the potential for.